and it was a way to calm myself down when things.
So you would actually
control.
cut when you got out of control, when you felt your emotions were out of control. You would cut as a way of relieving these unregulated emotions. Is that a safe description?
It is. I also, there were times where I would feel numb, where the emotions would get to be so much that I would actually feel like I was completely numb. And the way that I would be able to kind of jolt myself back into feeling would be to cut.
Laura, I appreciate
clearly
these
not
details
a
for
healthy
showing
way
us.
to do it, but.
Well, I understood, and that's why people need to understand if a child is doing this. It's a very, very serious sign of a psychiatric problem. That's how desperate
Absolutely.
you become to regulate your emotions. How bad did the cutting get? What kind of injury did you suffer finally?
Well, I still, to this day, have scars back from when I was, 12 and 13. So that's, I'm now almost 28. So that's a permanent sign of what I went through.
Yeah.
But there was a time where it was pretty severe. I was cutting a couple of times a day with whatever I could get my hands on when I was upset. I was very depressed and I was very anxious, and it was the only way I had figured out to cope.
Okay, Laura, stand by. Thank you for being courageous enough to share that story with us, by the way. But stand by as we go through this conversation. I'm going to maybe go back to you in a few minutes and talk about the treatment part of it. But right now we're going to talk about the cutting. And Lisa, Laura exhibits some of the manifestations, which is they cut to relieve emotions, they cut to dissociate from emotions, and they cut to bring themselves back into their body when they're dissociated. She has the spectrum.
She's almost a classic case, though, starting in the teenage years and then stopping in the late teens or early 20s. And she described it perfectly, these strong, intense emotions. And it's hard for people to understand that cutting actually makes people feel better. There's the way I explain it to parents is, if they're stressed and anxious and they have a glass of wine or a cigarette or a piece of chocolate cake, and it's that feeling of, all is right with the world, that's how someone feels when they cut. But there's also individuals who feel so numb that when they cut,
it brings it back.
Exactly. And it's not just the feeling, it's seeing the blood. That when they see the blood, they feel like I'm alive, I'm a human being. And sometimes it's staples and paper clips and pens and pencils, but it can be razor blades, it can be much more serious, like easy off oven cleaner on their arms to burn their skin.
And all of this is an attempt to use the brain's own system of euphoria, of the endorphin system, to try to get high, try to feel better, try to relieve emotion.
Well,
various strategies to do so.
Right.
And it probably comes back from a grooming behavior that animals have as a way of soothing, but it's gone sort of off the tracks in the abuse survivors.
Well, and it is a coping skill. I mean, that's why it's so hard to change, is because it really does work short term.